So I'm joined by Anderson Goin. Anderson is an amazing visual artist, painter, and he's the owner of Ugly Art Co. Gallery. So Anderson, I met you, I think it was 2021, and I had just started out putting my visual art out there, and I applied to your call for submissions.
Yep.
And it just happened. You wanted to have me on, and it like really touched me. And I know I say this a lot, but it meant the world that you took a chance on me.
Right.
You've opened so many doors for me with my artistic practice and artistic career. And so I obviously had to have you on. So
I appreciate it. I'm
thanks for
excited
joining
to
me.
be on. Yeah. And I mean, it was, when I first started Ugly, I didn't really know what I wanted it to be. I'd been out of the art world for a minute. Mm-hmm. And I think what I really ultimately wanted was community. Mm-hmm. And so, we put out that call and got a lot of submissions. Mm-hmm. Grateful for that. Some of the work was like really good, but I didn't feel like any real connection to it. Yeah. Your work was the first work that like really stood out to me. And like, I feel very passionately about the artists that we have. Mm-hmm. Not only like is the work really good, but they're really good people.
They really are.
Which is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some people apply whose work is really great, but they're not great, which is tough. And I appreciate you submitting the work, but we're going a different way. And I think that's important. I think it's important to surround yourself with people who want to grow, either artistically or individually. Mm-hmm. And I think that we've kind of cultivated a group that, really exemplifies that. So
yeah, there's some powerhouses. We'll talk more about Ugly, but you said something that you had been out of the art world for a while. What kind of made you withdraw from that?
I think being told you can't do this so often, especially in college, and I just kind of got, disengaged with the personality of it. It seemed to me that the contemporaries that I was working with, that the work took a backseat to who they were as a person or as an artist, which is fine, but it became like super performative to me. And I think that like really turned me off, and it felt like inauthentic, and I just did not like that. And I mean, I feed, and we'll probably get into this, but I feed off of people. Yes. So when someone is like really performing or working really hard, like that inspires me.
Yeah.
And that it was just kind of the opposite of that. And I probably could have done more to go and really seek out people who inspire me. But I was young,
Yeah,
and
it's hard to do that, to create community when you're young.
Right. So I said, I'll go earn an honest living.
Yeah.
And went into a couple different careers, was an operations manager for a moving company, went into mailing software.
I cannot see you do it. I mean, I can because you have good energy, but like that must have been...
Oh, it was awful.
Awful for you.
I mean, it was just so draining. I mean, and talk about like inauthentic. Like,
yes.
That was like... God, this is just soul sucking, because it's all just a lie, and like you're looking at like the back end of some of these like transactions, and your profit margin is 75%. Like it just felt so slimy. And I'm not speaking on all sale practices. I'm sure there's some legitimate and truthful practices out there, but what I was specifically in just did not feel like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of, that same process that led me out of the art world actually brought me back into it.
Yeah.
And I was more intentional about seeking out community that I respect, that I think has immense talent. And then, the other touch of that is really being from Memphis, or having some sort of call to Memphis. Because I feel like, I've seen a lot of really wonderfully talented people get washed out or never be given an opportunity, constantly being told no. So I was like, let's just say yes, and create our own opportunities. And it's been really great.
Yeah. So the Genesis started about 2020, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, we're 5 years later, and last year, the gallery opened.
Yes.
I know that was a long process.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Stressful process. Talk about what went into that and kind of some struggles that you overcame with that.
Yeah. Well, the number one struggle was just like, is this ever actually going to happen? And then I felt like I was lying to the group. I wasn't. I was being, regurgitating what I was being told. I was like, these people probably think that like I'm just stringing them along.
Yeah. I had faith. I truly was like, Anderson's gonna get this shit done.
Yeah. So I mean, and I'm not a patient person, so
Me
that
either.
was my biggest struggle. Like stepping into this completely new, atmosphere of the art world, which is like opening a gallery, organizing all of that. But I'd looked for a long time for space, either as like a shared studio or smaller gallery space, and everything was just, ungodly expensive, and there was just like no, and I went into this, come hell or high water, I'm going to give it my all. And if it fails, it fails. But at least I was in the arena and tried, and then John Halford and Patrick Brown.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out for real. From Connect Design, reached out to me and Genevieve. Or I think Genevieve was actually the first connect. Mm-hmm. And she connected me and Patrick and John. And they took me down to 635 Madison, which is now the Ugly Art Company. And, I walked in and I was like, holy shit, like there is no way I'm going to be able to do this. Like I was looking at little like 600 square foot like apartments essentially with like shag carpet that were out of my price range.
I didn't know there were shag there.
Oh yeah. That was, that was kind of cool, but from a not really conducive for showing work.
Yes.
But they were like, something that you don't really hear from a developer as an artist is like, we want to help you and we want to create an opportunity for you. And that was like super rewarding. And like, cause I felt like I was trying to do that on so many levels. It was nice to like have someone give me a little bit of a leg up, Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they have been absolutely wonderful. Now like, and this, this is just how things are with construction and any kind of projects that are, on a larger scale. Like there are holdups that are completely out of their control. And then when you're dealing with the city of Memphis, like, things happen. So took a little bit longer than like I would have ultimately wanted. I wanted to get in there immediately.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that looking back now, that we didn't, because I wasn't ready. I didn't think about programming. I wasn't thinking about, compiling emails and marketing. And so that forced pause gave me time to kind of collect myself and really be more diligent about, once we do get in there, how can we be effective and really, activate the space, not only for the district, but make, it's beneficial for the artists, mm-hmm. for the people that are coming in and experiencing the space. So, yeah.
I love that. And, since the gallery's open, you had your first exhibition there.
Yes.
I fell in love with that exhibition. It made me feel at home.
Appreciate that. Nice.
It was so nostalgic and personal, and it really made me get to know you better. So with all the gallery opening stuff and you doing your own show. What was that process like to balance those two?
Yeah, I mean, I really had to kind of turn off like the business side of my brain if I want. I mean, because and like, I mean, you know, I'm not trying to like, I'm not running like some hedge fund where like I'm in meetings from like 7 a.m. to like 10:30 at night. So I mean, like, but I mean, there are things that I just had to intentionally make space for, which is like creating my work.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I think like that's more of like a headspace than it is like any kind of like, you know, meaningful carving out like time in my schedule.
Yeah.
Being in a right space to create, because, you know, when I first started getting back into creating that show, the initial piece is just like, we're not great, you know, and it felt forced. And it showed, like, it just looked, the work looked forced, and it looked, you know, my work already is kind of bare bones, and it's like very broken down to, you know, the
deconstructed.
Yeah. And so it just looked elemental to me, and not in a great way, you know. So I, you know, kind of recollected my thoughts, and it was a little bit more diligent about creating that space for myself. And then just being like, you know, I think for a long time I was trying to create work for other people. And, you know, especially with social media and like Instagram, like it's easy to get sucked into this spot of like, well, I want people to like my stuff.
Yeah.
And I think when you do that, you're like really devaluing what you have to offer as an artist.
Yes.
So, you know, I just like, I got really honest with myself. I was like, listen, you can do this, and like you, but you have to be true to like what you know and like how you speak. And so that like really kind of helped me get into a groove. And it was really fun. Yeah.
So what made you want to explore that, your childhood and growing up in your home and family?
Yeah, I think as I've gotten older, like I just have really started to be able to cherish those like little moments, you know, that like as, you know, a entitled little shithead kid, I just completely glossed over and took for granted. And, you know, as my worldview is widened, seeing a lot of people not ever having some of those opportunities. And like for me to like it just felt, I felt ungrateful, you know? And so I wanted to be intentional about being grateful and about the things that I love. Like, you know, little 30-minute car rides with my sister, where she's like forcing me to listen to like this music that I hated at the time, you know, or like the chair that my dad sat in every night when we watched TV.
That's probably my favorite. That was my favorite part. Like with the TV and with their little figurines on top. I love that.
Oh, I appreciate it. And it's just like these very mundane things that like I think everyone has experienced, that like these little things that are kind of like, you know, statues in your life that, you know, or maybe have some moss that have been covered over, and it's easy to look past or look beyond them. But like, that's really what I find beauty in, is like these small things that like in one way or another have kind of like gotten you to the next stage. And like my dad sitting there and watching TV with me every night was like a cornerstone of my childhood, you know? So yeah, like kind of taking some of those, you know, moments and then bringing them back with like this real fervor and love and energy. And so, yeah, that's kind of what my thought process was. And from like an actual, you know, I was working on all these at one time, you know, like I had them all laid out. And so it was easier for me to keep that energy from piece to piece, by working on many pieces at once. So
I love that. And I want to talk about your dad, because when I've described you to other people, I describe you as boisterous
Yeah.
and energetic. And I was like, where does that come from? And then I met your dad.
Oh yeah, that is exactly right.
And he's worked with artists in his career. Sure, what has your dad taught you about artistry and creativity? What have you gleaned from him?
I think the thing that I have gained from him is to be fearless and like to really take chances. And I think that's something that his father didn't grant to him. So he wanted to make a point of it to me. He never said no. He wasn't like, maybe you should do something else. And he allowed me to be happy in this space that like a lot of parents look down on, just truthfully, or chastise, or, like hype, like, passive aggressive about it,
or project their own fears.
100%. Yeah. That's exactly right. And he's like, I think he's always believed in me, but like he really has. And to have that like belief is, it's a lot. And it gives you courage to take leaps and ultimately fail, and I've failed a lot. But I think if I didn't have that kind of encouragement, I would have never jumped, So, it's been he and my mother both. I mean, he was he was a great artist when he was younger. And had an opportunity to go to Chicago Art Institute.
Wow.
And his grandfather was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You're going to study business at Memphis. And then he went into the music industry, and then we started a small little record label called Ba Records here at Memphis, and worked. That was really fun, and it was fun for me to see him excited, and
he's probably one of the most excited people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Like when I talk to him, I just like light up.
Right.
And same with you, because you're so passionate about just like what you're talking about. And
sure.
Anytime you talk about art, you just kind of come alive.
Yeah. And it really is like, I have my family, my wife, and
shout
art.
out to Stephanie.
Shout out Steph. My friends, but like art is my foundation. It is what I fall back on in good and bad times. And then the people that, I view myself as a visual artist, but I think more than that, I think my biggest strength is putting other people in a position to succeed. And I think that I really get a lot of joy from that. And I think that's kind of what Jerry does too. He really, he has an eye for talent. And he takes chances, and I think that's like really what it's about. And so we had the record label, and then we closed that down. And then when I started Ugly, it was cool to see him, like coming around, because he's getting to like live it vicariously, So it's been fun for all of us.
Yeah, it's a family affair.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. What has your mom's involvement? How has she helped you create Ugly?
Yeah, my mom is the person that is like the rock. Like Jerry's the guy that pushes me off the rock. My mom is the one that like lets me climb back up.
Yeah.
She's the sweetest woman that I've.
Yes.
I mean, she is an angel. She's gentle, like, and especially when times like because I'm an emotional guy. For good, for better and for worse, like I can be a lot to deal with, and she can navigate that and bring me back to like where I need to be. Sometimes, she will give me a kick in the ass, but she'll also be like, it's going to be okay, and both of those are needed.
Yes.
And I think her and my wife are the two people that can like, work through my bullshit and get to me where I need to be.
Yeah. Steph is an angel too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
100%. Both her and my mother, like, they are angels, but they are complete badasses. And like they are gonna tell you the truth, like no matter what. They might deliver the truth kindly, but they're gonna give it to you. I mean, and I think like for me especially, like I don't do well with like good job, even though I know it's not. Like, I need you to tell me if it's not good. Like, what can I do better? And so, yeah, they are not afraid to tell me areas where I can do better, but also, like, in a gentle and loving way. You know, so.
I love that because it kind of goes into the story about the name behind Ugly.
Yeah.
To me. Talk about that. Why did you decide to name it this kind of in-your-face name that's not really tied to art?
Sure. There's like a couple of components to it, but the funny story of it is, I was having my first show. I think it was out of high school. I think I just finished. Yeah, because I was going to Watkins, and I had like this one really big piece that like I was super proud of. And so my friend and her mom were there at the show, and I was standing behind them, and they, had no idea that I was behind them, but I could hear what they were saying, and her mom goes, "His work is just so ugly." I was like, "Oh my God,
Jeez.
Jesus Christ,
that's cutting."
Yeah, yeah,
especially at that young.
Yeah, 100%, and like, yes, that young, and like, thought I was good, but like didn't know anything, So like, I was like, "Oh wow, an adult is saying that all my shit is ugly. Like, this is not great." But like, even in that moment, I knew that like, I'm going to take that and I'm going to make that something positive. Like, I'm not going to let this one person's opinion completely destroy my worldview of my work and myself. So I did, like, even throughout college, would refer to my work as ugly. In an endearing, like, brutally kind of honest way. It is ugly in a lot of ways. But
to me, like, I equate ugliness with specialness.
Yes.
It's not like pristine or polished. It has like a human error, erratic touch to it.
100%.
And like, your work has like scribbles and colors that don't match, and like images that wouldn't normally go together, but it does come through.
Right. I try to be like super raw in a delicate way. I also will hope that my work comes off as like authentic. Like, most of my mark making is super immediate. There's not much revision once it's down. And I kind of just, whatever's happening, I react to the marks that are being made on the canvas. And so, but yeah, and then the other part of that is, and years later, I ended up talking to them all, and it was all fun and funny. But the other part of that is like, yeah, I mean, like, just taking something that like most people attach like this really negative connotation to, and like owning that and making it your own, and like, this is something that we can be proud of. And then also like the Memphis side of it, like, Memphis gets a bad rap a lot of times. People shit on Memphis all the time.
Yeah, it pisses me off.
It pisses me off too. And so like, yeah, we are a little bit ugly. We are a little bit in your face. Like, you're gonna have to fucking deal with that. Like, we are here, and we're not going anywhere. So and then the last little part is like, you're gonna remember ugly. Like, it's not like, what if Anderson's art guy, like, like, it just, it was you might not like us, but you're certainly going to remember us.
Absolutely.
And I would rather be hated than someone feel indifferent about me. So
I love that. So with Ugly, it's like a 2-part question. Where do you see the evolution of your art, your personal art, and the evolution of Ugly, and do they kind of coincide?
Yeah, I think so. It's funny because I think, like, going back to what I was saying earlier, I draw inspiration from people, and so allowing myself to be around like all these really great artists in Ugly, of all different mediums, of all different styles, of all different narratives, has, like, I think subconsciously kind of influenced my work a little bit, and like not necessarily the content of the work, but how I'm approaching it. Talking to like people like you, and then going to talking to Isaiah or Emily about how they do things, why they do things, has made me be, while immediate, more intentional. And so I think my art is, and my art change, a lot of my art changes stylistically pretty often.
Me too. I get bored easy.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just I don't want to stick to one thing. I do want it to change. But I think, as we grow as a group, both like literally and, more internally, I think my work has kind of done that in a similar way. But this year I really do, my focus is probably going to be like a tiny step back from my personal work, and like really putting that energy into the group, like really cultivating an atmosphere like where we know each other, trust each other, can critique each other on a semi-frequently basis.
Yeah.
Because that first year was mainly getting the gallery up, operating. It was more external.
Yep.
And now I think I want this. Since we're in a good spot, I want it to kind of turn in a little bit and be a little bit more internal with the group. Obviously we're still going to have plenty of shows and different things, but
yeah, y'all have a lot of events. Y'all have music shows, like every weekend.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got something going on, and then I think that is super intentional. Like we do want it to. We don't want to be like this monolithic, space that you come in and it's the same experience,
the white cube,
right? The same, spot or environment that you were in a week and a half ago. I think it's important to keep it fresh and interesting. So yeah, obviously we're gonna have a lot of art programming, but we're kind of branching out, especially with some of the restaurants that are coming in. We're gonna do a lot of food oriented stuff. We'll have concerts still. We're going to open up some more poetry, like open mic nights, which we have not done yet.
I will be there,
yeah,
and I will do that.
I'm really excited about that. And then we were also kind of getting into the film screening stuff a little bit too. So for film releases on the smaller scale, I really love cultivating like intimate, special experiences that are, art centric, that create discussion, and that you can have fun at and not feel stupid or unwanted.
Yes.
And where you can have fun, not everything has to be super serious,
Yeah, there's a fun energy when you go, and there's always music playing.
Yeah.
It's not like it doesn't feel like you're going to say the wrong thing.
Right.
Or someone's going to like give you a shitty look.
Sure.
It's very welcoming. And as someone who is like getting their foot into the art world, and I've always wanted to be part of the art world, it's so nice to have that.
Yeah.
And to have people that welcome you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's like a very like common misnomer with the art world. It's like, oh, the art world is like super inclusive and friendly. It's like, oh,
No.
not really. Like it's actually pretty gatekeepy and pretty like
Yes.
get off my lawn-ish energy, which I ran into a lot when I was first starting the gallery. But yeah, like we want to be. A lot of my friends are not, art-centric people, and so I talked to a bunch of them before I started Ugly, and I was like, "What's your experience in galleries or in museums?" And like the most common thing was, "I feel unwanted and I feel stupid," and that really irritated me. Like just from like a business practice, like what a terrible way to operate.
Yeah.
Like
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah. Like so your goal is to have people not come back. So yeah, I mean that was super important for me, and that also kind of plays into like the people of Ugly, why it's important. I don't want to platform someone who is a shitty person, or thinks that like they're so much better than other people. You know, I don't have time for that, you know? So yeah, creating a space that truly is educational, that is truly welcoming, and that like you can have, you know, your masters and your BFA or whatever it is. You could know the Baroque period and the Byzantine period, or know absolutely nothing at all.
Yep.
You know, and still feel like you're wanted, and this place is just as much of a place for you as Sally with the thesis on Baroque art versus Byzantine. You know, so
I love that. So one of my favorite questions to ask artists is, what if you had all the resources in the world? What would be your dream project?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I think I think I would like to do like massive scale work, like incredibly, like 30 by 40 feet.
Yeah.
And I would also like to kind of get into the public art sphere a little bit.
I would love to see some Anderson murals.
I would love that too. Yeah. The process of mural making like really scares me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would probably be something like public art, really large in scale, like, you know, takes months and months to produce. I've always been intrigued by like work that really takes a long time, because my work is like pretty fast.
Mine is
and,
too. And it makes me feel guilty sometimes.
Yeah,
like I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's just who I am. I'm a very fast person.
Right. Sure.
So.
Yeah. And I've seen work that's, you know, taken 3 hours and work that's taken 6 months. And a lot of times I take that piece that's done in 3 hours over the 6-month one. So,
yeah.
But yes, probably some sort of, you know, public art, large scale, something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see Anderson mural. I want to thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You are such a figurehead for me and so many other artists. You're doing really cool stuff. Ugly is like changed my life.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that. It really does mean a lot to hear that.
Yeah.
So it's neat.